Everyone, Karen from Online Teacher Coach, and if you've watched my other videos, this is a series of them where I'm just giving some like quick, no prep ways to do things in your classroom, specifically foreign language classrooms, since that's what I'm familiar with, but they can be applied to any classroom. If you like these videos, make sure you hit subscribe or go to my website. I'll show you how to get some freebies in just a second, but this video is a no prep way to use dice to practice verbs. And I'm going to give you all kinds of way to do it. All you have to do is, well, have the dice ready to go. I think I got mine at the dollar store or something. So in fact, I think my own kids stole them at one point, but here we go. Let me explain to you how to practice verbs using dice. So I call this activity verb dice. And as you can see, there are two of them here. And there is a pedagogical background, just like all my activities, so that, you know, if someone walks by your classrooms and sees kids throwing dice around, you've got, you know, tell them what to do. First of all, this involves cooperative learning. We know that cooperative learning is a very important component of the foreign language classroom. I've talked a lot about active recall, but basically what it is to, you know, people learn something once or maybe twice, right? But to have it go into your long-term memory, you have to ask them to actively recall it, right? Otherwise, they listen to it once and it goes whoop, out the door. So this involves active recall. It also involves self-reflection, which is a 21st century learning skill. And this also can involve application and analysis. If you think about like Bloom's taxonomy, where we're not just remembering stuff, but we're also using it in context, we're applying it, we're analyzing it, self-correcting. So it gets up there in the higher level thinking skills. All right, first step. Always I explain the rules to students, and the very bottom of my screen is the most important rule. Preface, if you are using real dice and not like virtual, if you teach virtually, there's a little app you can do, right? You must tell them that the dice must stay on the desks. This is not a game, this is a game. I mean, it is a game, but this is not a crapshoot. We are not in some sort of a club or anything. The dice don't need to be thrown. A simple letting them go and keeping them on the desk is really important. So just keep that in mind. All right, so what are the directions? Okay, first, you can use physical dice or virtual dice. Either one you want, easy peasy. You don't have to have anything printed up for this, right? This could be like you have 10 or 15 minutes left in your room. You don't want the students to, be crazy or something. You want to use those last 10 or 15 minutes. Just use the board, use a whiteboard, a blackboard, a Jamboard, whatever you want to use. And you just simply write on the left-hand side, the six subject pronouns, and then on the right, the verbs. This is verb conjugation we're practicing here, right? So like I write on my left-hand column, I, you, he, she, we. If I were doing this, obviously in French, I should put je, tu, etc. And then I just choose my 6 verbs for the right. Now, I'd only choose verbs that they have already learned. In this case, there are a few irregulars in there. So choose verbs that your students, you want them to actively call it, recall it, right? All right. So I tell them that the first one represents the subject. So you can see in the little thing, number 1 represents I or je. The second one represents the verb. So as they roll them, and remember to keep them on their desks, as they roll them, they're going to come up with like a 1 and a 2. Let's just pretend the 1 and a 2. So what they must do is say the conjugation, spell the verb conjugation or the ending, and then write it on a paper. So it's not just good enough to be like, oh yeah, I got, I and vivre. Okay, what are you going to do with that? Make it clear. Students really don't know. And even if they did, they might pretend they don't. So you want to make sure it's clear. Say, spell, and write. That's what I tell them. Or you could have saved time and just say and spell, right? Je vis in this case. Say, spell, and write. But each of these components represents, one is a subject and one is the verb. So we're really playing on a game of chance here. And they might get it a second time, and that's okay. We're talking about active recall. So the students in the peer groups must roll and then complete it. So where, how exactly? Well, you could use like a folded paper. So if you have time and you want that, verb conjugations are important, right? So I might just take any old paper, fold it in half. You've got the French, you've got your English, you can write them on there. You could have them write this in their Cornell notes. So maybe they got a number 2 and a number 4, and maybe 2 stands for, let's just go back, you, and number 4 is the verb ale. What are they going to do? They can write it. They can write it on the folded paper, and then because later we can go back and have them put the English. See, a little bit of a hint there. You could have them take Cornell notes, right, where they put the language on one side, etc. You could even do it in a group. So if you're teaching virtually, you could have a master document where students are all writing that will give you some insight. You can correct as you go. See, there's a little trick there for virtual teachers. Okay, step 2. Now we've asked them to roll these, roll the dice. We've asked them to use this sort of game of chance to come up with the correct endings and say them, spell them, write them, however it is you want to ask them to do it. There's a step 2. We want them to do something with these. So first of all, you might ask them to check their references and check for accuracy and correct on their own. This is a self-reflect, a self-check, right? So it's confirming what they know, confirming if they didn't get something right, they can make the corrections. That's one thing, especially it's a quiet thing and you might get, 2 minutes apiece. All right, you could have them peer review, like switch and check. So if they have like that folded paper, let's just switch and I'm going to use my reference material and check yours and you're going to check mine, right, to make sure that it's good. You also, and here we go up to that higher level thinking skill, use it to prompt students to use them in sentences, questions, etc. So it's another way to use this sort of game to make them, apply the language in context. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe, or you can go to my website, www.onlineteachercoach.com. I do have some free teaching resources there, just, PowerPoints and worksheets and that sort of thing. And then, of course, I have this blog that comes out, and I hope you enjoyed, and please take care of yourself. Thank you.